Cheers. Great to meet everybody. My name is Canaan. I'll start a little bit maybe with my background. I'm originally from Palo Alto, California, the Bay Area, kind of San Francisco-ish area, for those unfamiliar. And my background is I graduated college in 2017 from Carnegie Mellon. There was an indie game developer and did my senior thesis on blockchain. After that, I was a software engineer at Bloomberg in New York City for about a year. And then about 3.5 years ago, I actually started Stardust. I blame my parents. Both of them are entrepreneurs. And so about 3.5 years ago, I started Stardust. First 2 years after that were mainly R&D, with about 1.5 years ago when we really understood what the company was and started building our current product that I'll show. My goal in starting the company was really to give game developers a way to build on blockchain without needing to know what it was. A similar system to the ones they were using in Web 2 today, but be able to be rip and replaced with a Web 3 solution that they didn't need to know what a blockchain was in order to build in the metaverse. And kind of from the other side, players, of course, could play games on blockchain without needing to know what the blockchain was at all. And Stardust today, our tagline is really a software platform for games in the metaverse. And kind of my impetus for starting the company, actually, obviously, other than the usability perspective, was companies like Engine. I saw they launched and really didn't align with how they were approaching the problem, forcing people to back items with cryptocurrency, allowing people to deploy smart contracts easier. That's not really exactly what I thought the product should look like. And so our product is very much modeled after theirs, but I hope maybe abstracts one level away further the blockchain from the end user and developer. Kind of from the other perspective as well, we have been in the blockchain space for a long time. So I have built on almost all the technologies out there. I built personally when we started on the Loom SDK. If anyone remembers that project, they were actually the precursor to Matic or Polygon, and went out of business maybe early 2019. But the original Somnium Space, Axie Infinity's actually Ronin sidechain right now is a Loom dApp chain. Neon District, they were all on Loom. They went out of business, everyone to Polygon. And so I'm very familiar actually with Polygon's technology. It's the original one we were using for Stardust on the Loom SDK. And so really happy to be here, really happy to show our product. And been a fan of the Polygon ecosystem and known Sandeep and the guys there since early mid 2018. Just from my knowledge, because I can't see the YouTube stream, any questions? I guess you'll just relay.
Yeah, I will ask. Yeah, I will.
Awesome. Cheers. So let's get into the product, and let me share my screen here. Something to note in our product, and I think the ingenuity behind it, is you will not be seeing a lot of blockchain during this demo. I think I'm sharing the wrong screen here. And so with that being said, let me share my second screen for you guys. And can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
Can you guys see the games and everything?
Yep.
Awesome. So every game developer today is using a game development service out there like PlayFab. And what this is it's a cloud data asset storage system that gives them an API to store the data for their players and for their game in the cloud. This could be player inventories, item information, even stats on players and different sorts of payment statistics. And this is all stored in a cloud asset management platform, what you call a kind of a CRM, if you will, for game items and players. I guess not a CRM, but asset management system. It's okay. But this one from PlayFab handles some of the biggest in the world. And every game developer today is using an internal API that either connects to the game, the server, and then to the database, their local database, or a database in the cloud in a service like PlayFab. Stardust is really trying to be a rip and replace to the PlayFab model, giving a game developer just a simple API that they can use to connect their game server to an asset management system in the cloud, which in this case is blockchain. And that's super important because a huge portion of games out there, about 85 to 90% of games, are actually outsourced development. The biggest games in the world have huge, employee pools, and it's all in-house. But for the others out there, they're outsourcing their games to India, China, Ukraine, and other countries around Southeast Asia and kind of Europe. And it's important to give these kind of third-party shops the ability to easily build games in a way that they know how to build, rather than forcing them to learn new technology. So with that, let's get right into it. If you wanted to deploy a game on Polygon, it's as easy as 3 clicks. You press Add Game, enter a name, description, upload an icon, select Polygon from our blockchain dropdown, press Confirm, and that's it. You've deployed your game on Polygon. It's performant. You get an immediate response. You paid no gas fees and signed no transactions. And I'll talk a lot more about what's going on behind the scenes, the obvious question, where do the private keys live? But it's that easy. And that's really what we're trying to distill building on the blockchain and building in the metaverse in general down to a set of graphical clicks that any game developer out there can really take advantage of. Let's hop into an example game, Pokeverse, which is actually a demo of a live game currently using Stardust. You can see an overview of your game. Simple players will sometime soon add more stats. But if you wanted to create a template or an item type definition for your game, it's as simple as pressing Add Item. Let's say you want to add, let's talk about Zed-Run. Let's say we want to add some horses, right? You'd enter the horse name here for the template or item type definition, a description, drag and drop an image or soon a 3D file, whether maybe only 100,000 of this item can ever be created, whether it's a non-fungible or fungible token. Do that backwards. That's a non-fungible token. And then any properties associated with this item here. Something to note is that this kind of dialog box and kind of when you press confirm here does not create an individual NFT. What it does is it creates what we call a template, or a way that you can then generate specific NFTs to players that are from this template and this type, and also from the game, meaning it's connected. And so you don't just have individual NFTs with metadata linking them back to the game or what type of object they are, but there's actually an on-chain linkage between the NFT you have, the type of NFT it is, and how kind of rare it is in its background. And then from then, the connection to the actual on-chain game as well in the smart contract. So you can read the details about the game, get more info, and that's all on-chain as well. I guess any questions so far? I just, want to open it up and always prompt and answer any questions in chat.
I don't see any questions pop up. So
okay, maybe no one's watching. It's okay. Yeah. On the template side, right, you can drill in here, see the description of the item, the ID, the fungible token, any properties as well. You can see the cap, the supply, and then the players that own this item. We'll talk more about who these players are. And something to note in our system as we go over the players is every game currently is a DEX. They're basically a decentralized exchange. You have to log in with MetaMask, Phantom Wallet, depending what chain you're on, and you can just go into the game and sign every transaction and own the assets digitally and yourself, right? As true digital asset ownership gives you. Now, there's a whole class of player, and that we're targeted to at Stardust, that does not understand what the blockchain is. And so from that perspective, we actually allow game developers to provision managed users in our system. In the same way when you'd log into a Coinbase, FTX, Binance, Huobi, you would actually get a provisioned wallet when you log in with your username and password or Gmail on the back end, and you can buy, sell, stake, trade crypto in the exchange, and they're managing they're managing that for you, on the back end in a managed profile. That's exactly what we give game developers the ability to do for their players. They can easily provision a managed wallet so a player can come in and play the game as it's a normal game. They can go into RuneScape and they can pick up 5 gold coins. And on the back end, that's minting 5 ERC20s in their wallet. And the player has never known anything about that, but it gets all of the benefits that blockchain brings. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. So there are 2 ways to create a player in our system. Number 1, we have a login widget, so you can easily embed that in your game, Unity, Unreal, or web-based. And if they're not provisioned in your system, they'll be created. On the other end, we also have an API. Many games, if not the vast majority of them, are delivered on kind of not decentralized, but a federated identity platforms. Things like Steam, Facebook, Discord, Epic Launcher, in which you're already logged in order to start playing the game. So in that case, you can be saved under your maybe Discord or Steam ID. Once you're provisioned in our system, you get a Stardust ID, and I'll talk more about this, but this actually maps in the backend to your managed profile in what we have as Fireblocks, and I'll talk more about our backend wallet management systems and why they're actually industry leading and secure for anyone in the NFT space. With that being said, I want to hop over to our documentation because I think this is one of the most important things we do. So if you want to create a player in our system, there are no blockchain transactions. It's as simple as hitting player create, giving us your API key, giving us the data about that player, and then posting it to us via a simple web request. Again, I'll just hammer that point even further. If you wanted to mint an NFT to a player, it's as simple as calling token mint, giving us your API key for the game, the player ID, right, of the person who picked it up, and then an array of objects. It is that simple. And a couple things to highlight here, right? No signing transactions, no gas fees. We'll talk about that, and I'll show kind of our wallet management system right after this. At the same time, this API is free. You can mint 1 million calls. We actually pay for that. We pay for that for you at Stardust. Second large thing is we give you 50 to 100 millisecond response times. We're optimizing the transaction so that we can actually tell if it settles long before it gets to chain. So we can give you pretty much instant and performant response times from that perspective as well. And the third is kind of scalability. So we're all built in our whole system is built in a serverless manner, which means if you want to send 1 million calls per second to Stardust, we can actually handle that. What'll happen on the back end, we give you instant confirmations for all of them. We actually turn it into one large state transition, and we can post it to chain for you to really take advantage of a bulk transition on chain in terms of state. And that's maybe a similar technology to rollups. And it's something we're implementing internally so that game developers that need concurrency of 1 million plus transactions can really get that on a system like Polygon. Cheers. Okay, as promised, I will talk a little bit about where are the private keys stored in our system. It's one of the most important things and probably the first question every game developer asks me. So Fireblocks is an institutional grade custodial wallet service. And they pretty much answer the question, if Andreessen Horowitz buys $1 billion in crypto, where do they put it? Not A16Z directly. There are others like Anchorage and BitGo that provide the same service, but Fireblocks is one of these services that would provide institutional grade security for any fund, for any large kind of cryptocurrency holder out there in the space today. I believe at the moment they're about 20 billion AUM in their wallets, and they've done $1 trillion in transfers last year. And we leverage their security of wallets to give one to every single player and every single developer in our system, giving your players institutional grade security for every single NFT and currency they have within the system. And that's super important because, the kind of standard today is if a player doesn't know what a blockchain wallet is, you just hide it from them. You put it in an app, you tie it, put it in their local storage so they don't need to know. That is the wrong way to go about this security paradigm. What you should be doing is, this user doesn't know what MetaMask is. You need to give them a way so that in future, they not only can recover that account, right, which they can't do if you hide kind of a MetaMask integration for them, but they also need to be sure that their assets are safe. And if they don't understand the security implication of managing their own private key, they must and should be defaulted to a managed profile like we give them. At any point in our system, not only can the developer, but also the player send their assets outside of the system. So they can send them from their Fireblocks managed address into their own MetaMask and then back into Fireblocks. It's super important that we obviously have this security in place and this usability in place for a managed system so that when blockchain games get to the tens, if not hundreds of millions of players on mobile and just in general, they can appeal to players who are never going to download MetaMask, who are never going to buy cryptocurrency, but yet can still want to play the games in the metaverse and earn these NFTs as well as these currencies in game. A couple other features I'll talk about as part of the Stardust platform. We have a shop, not quite yet ready, but as part of this page, you can create the SKUs you want to actually sell your items to players and NFTs. Something unique about us is we were actually partnered with Circle to allow for fiat for NFTs, right? You can put in your credit card and buy directly an NFT from an end game developer. That's kind of unique to us. Dapper Labs has this flow, but it's very integrated into NBA Top Shot. It's not a standalone product like we have. And the other side is a lot of the services out there right now offer some sort of cash to NFT, or excuse me, cash to crypto. They don't offer directly cash to NFT, and obviously appealing to players that have never used blockchain currencies before, right, or Ethereum or managed their own wallet address. It's pretty paramount that we have a payment flow that allows the end user to be able to buy an NFT for a credit card. The other thing we have coming out is a marketplace that's not quite out yet, but that'll be obviously a huge value add to game developers on Stardust because there are items and the players want to trade, and we also see that as a huge revenue stream for them, obviously secondary market and taking a cut of those transactions. The third thing we do, kind of in addition to the core API dashboard and wallet management, is our apps page. And this is super important from the concept of taking DeFi apps and putting them directly in game. And what I mean by that is if you're going in RuneScape right now and you go up to an NPC and you want to trade 5 gold coins for 1 Ethereum, that doesn't really exist. What you'd have to do to actually use Uniswap in game is take your wallet out of the game, go over to something like Uniswap, and then trade 5 gold coins to 1 Ethereum, and then go back to the game and take that Ethereum again. What we actually allow game developers to do is natively put DeFi concepts in their game. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're walking up to a character in RuneScape, and just as a disclaimer, we don't work with Jagex or RuneScape, but I play RuneScape very much, and that's why I'm using it as an example. Let's say you walk up to a character in game, and you want to trade 5 gold coins for 1 Ethereum. That character in game can actually be backed by our API, backed by a Uniswap curve on chain. So that swap you just did within the game environment, game natively, is actually happening on chain in the real world financial ecosystem. That's obviously a huge value add because now we start to see games that natively are tied to the metaverse and blockchain applications itself. And this is true for Uniswap, right? Or maybe SushiSwap on Polygon, right? Aave, you can put as a savings chest in game to allow people to stake, earn yield directly in game, right? OpenSea, Upshot, Serum, Showtime, all of these composable apps on chain and all of the innovation on Polygon can now be delivered natively within the game as a simple NPC backed by our REST API. The game developer can implement these flows. They can also take a cut of any transaction through Uniswap, almost making the game a front-end swap interface like a MetaMask, where they're actually monetizing on the economic activity that players are earning within the game. You see that is a huge value add to the end game developers because we see the future of game monetization actually monetizing in-game economies rather than just selling individual in-app purchases to players. And I think that was it. I'd love to open it up to any questions if you have. If there are none off the top of the head, I'm always available at Canaan Linder on Twitter, at Stardust Platform on Twitter without the O, at Stardust Canaan on Telegram as well. And actually, I think I'm at Canaan Linder on Twitter. Very sorry about that. And let's see, always happy to get you started on Stardust. We're building fast. We're working with probably about 25 game developers, some of the largest in the world that unfortunately I'm under strict MNDA, so can't list. But yeah, we're working with a lot of game developers, and would love to help you too, building your game for the Polygon Hackathon or just on Polygon in general.
Yeah, great. Thanks for all the information and presentation you just provided, Ken, which is, I believe, a very great opportunities for all the developers who want to build some GameFi on the Polygon network. I just see one questions from audience ask where the code base of the game is stored.
Sure. So currently, the code base of the game, so I'll first start with Stardust, because maybe you're asking Stardust as well. Stardust is currently closed source. Our goal and feature is obviously open source the contract. That's a big thing for us and their addresses. And we're going to work over time to make the full Stardust code base open. Currently, it's just not, but that is one of our goals. For the game itself and for games built on Stardust, it's really the game developer's prerogative whether that game is open or closed source. Since we're working with some of the larger ones, their games have typically been closed source, but we do have some smaller indie examples that I can also point to that will be open source as well. Stardust really is the back-end kind of managed inventory provider for those games. And something to note about games on Stardust is the vast majority, I'd say almost 98%, don't live on chain. So the logic for these games is actually centralized on one of their servers, and they're using a decentralized provider like Polygon to store the kind of economic information of that game, the items owned, and maybe any economic swaps in game as well. But the games themselves are large AAA games that are usually closed source.
Got it. So maybe actually I will ask a few questions for you. Sure. But it's not too much details about maybe developing stuff, because I'm not a technical guy. But sure. I would just like ask as a normal person who interested in the GameFi industries, because I just saw when you're trying to share your screen, I saw you do the Stardust do like Solana and the Polygon at the same time. We all know that Solana is like have a very low transaction fee and low gas fee, and it runs super fast. And I just want to know like and that so many news and information saying that Solana is like one of the best layer one for all the GameFi projects. And what do you think like the difference between Solana and Polygon? Because we all know that sure. Polygon is also have a very low transaction fees, which is very similar to Solana. Yeah,
I have to say, you know, I put 10 Matic in my wallet, I think about 2 months ago to test. And I've ran a lot of transactions, and I'm only down to 9, and deployed a lot of contracts, and I'm only down to 9.7. So, you know, I really do like Matic, and it is quite fast and cheap as well. A couple things I'll say. Number one, Stardust makes developing on any chain very easy. And so one of the reasons we looked at Polygon and integrate kind of Polygon and Solana first is we really go toward the chains that have the most developer interest. And I think what Polygon has since 2018 is a community of people that are really there to build. You know, during the bull run of 2017 and 2018, everybody had a large community, right? But I think only during the bear do we really see where community thrives and innovation thrives on chain. And long before DeFi summer, right, Polygon was one of the largest, if not the largest, next to Ethereum in terms of grassroots community, mostly due to its similarity and it's just betterment of Ethereum itself. The other thing I'll say is because of that, Polygon is a much more, I think, one of the more, if not the most, robust ecosystem other than Ethereum. You know, projects like Aave, projects like SushiSwap, right? And yes, you know, they will be and are going on other chains, but they've been on Polygon so long that they've really solidified themselves as kind of, you know, one of the highest TVL projects on Polygon, right? If not, and I would bet at a certain point, at some point higher than Ethereum, that they'll become on Polygon. And so because of that, if you're looking to build a game that really has DeFi integrations within it, Polygon is the current, I I would say, leader in DeFi projects on its chain. And so therefore, if your game has a lot of in-game economic activities that rely on projects like SushiSwap and Aave, projects that have not yet moved to these other chains, right? Then that is something that you would want to utilize our dashboard in order to build on Polygon faster. One just thing there, our goal at Stardust is to help every game developer build on the chain of their choice faster. In future, we actually see the metaverse is kind of chain agnostic and every chain having their part to play. Polygon, right, will be for kind of the kind of a layer 2 security of Ethereum or kind of a side chain, or, however, the Twitter people want to argue about it, that's fine with them. But I really see them as having a lot of DeFi, right? While other chains maybe for faster and more like, instant trading, while other chains like Flow may even have intellectual property, and every chain will have their part to play. Polygon is a huge part of that. And our goal is to let any game developer build faster on the chain of their choice, and many are requesting Polygon.
Yeah, that's make a lot of sense to me. And thank you for answering these questions. And then maybe we could have the last questions. So how fast is the transaction time is on Stardust?
Yeah.
Audience, yeah.
So basically instant, right? And one thing I'll say, and to kind of clarify that, we optimistically settle transactions internally. And the reason we do that is since our system is a little bit more managed than others, right? Because we offer managed profiles for the mainstream player, we can easily say that if this player and this player are trading and we know their inventories and we manage them as a managed user on our platform through the game and their inventories on blockchain, we know that that transaction on chain is going to pass. And so we don't have to wait 2 seconds on chain for that to happen. We do that plus a lot of other optimistic things internally and kind of settlement things that actually give the response time in about 50 to 100 milliseconds, depending on where you are in the world. And so from a game developer today, their database response times, either locally or in the cloud, are anywhere between, maybe even lowest at 25, could be even down to, a millisecond if they really optimize, all the way up to 150 milliseconds for probably the average large scale game out there. We offer a solution that is right in that range so that any game developer out there gets an equally great experience building on Stardust on Polygon as they would building in their own database. And that's obviously of extreme importance.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything today for this workshop. Thank you very much for this amazing presentation, Ken. I don't know others, but at least I learned a lot from what you just said. And I believe the whole sessions will also be super helpful for all the developers who listen to this workshop today. And in the future, we have a series of workshops. And a few minutes later, we will have another workshop by Helper Elaine, who is working in the Alchemy and talking about deploying a smart contract on Polygon. They will be hosting the same YouTube and Bilibili channel. So stay tuned if you have interest for that. And if you haven't followed us on YouTube and Bilibili, please make sure you do that so you won't miss out any of the upcoming workshops in the future. And I hope you all have a great time building something on Polygon, and have a great day, everyone. And
awesome.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys. And I'll say we love Alchemy. Nikhil, CEO, is an investor in our company, and we use Alchemy to deploy